It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Knicks Wall podcast. This is one that we've been waiting for a long time, one we've been waiting to record with anticipation. On with me on the line, I've got Kyle Maggio.
What's going on, everybody?
Follow him at Kyle Maggio on Twitter. Also joining us, as always, we've got the one and only Bryan Gibberman.
The world is not ending.
It's not. It's not, unless you follow at Bryan Gibberman on Twitter, because there has been some hot takes, some big responses coming from you, some accusations getting thrown your way.
I'm pretty calm. I'm all right. I think I'm handling this all very well.
Well, let's get into it. But before we do, just wanted to mention to all of you, of course, that we are on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Go check out everything that we are doing with them over there. Make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, on YouTube, on any podcast platform. Head to theknickswall.com. We've had all this free agency buzz covered there, since 6 o'clock on Sunday. And that just kind of brings us to our first point, where after months and months and even more months of speculation, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving are not New York Knicks. They're part of the Brooklyn Nets now. It's all of the memes and the images and the photoshops and the soons and everything, and it's all for naught. And I kind of want to start with Kyle Maggio here, and I want to grab just your initial thoughts last night on hearing, leaked an hour before the boardroom could get it, that Kevin Durant is going to be a Brooklyn Net.
Yeah, so it sucks. Let's not pretend otherwise. It blows. I tweeted probably minutes before Woj tweeted out that he was going to go to the Nets, that was the one destination where it would actually be disappointing for me. I would have been okay if he went back to Golden State. I would have been okay if he went to the Clippers and was with Kawhi. I would have understood it. Basically, the Nets was the only thing that I wanted them to avoid, and because of that, you kind of knew that was what was going to happen, because it's the Knicks. It always happens this way. So, yeah, I'm obviously pissed about that. It sucks, but we'll get to like the actual signings the Knicks made, which I'm mostly fine with. It's just you feel terrible. It's fine, but it's worse positions to be in. It's not like we're capped out or, stuck with long-term deals, or, there's not like there's no decent youth on the roster. It's fine. I just feel like it feels like shit.
Knicks fans had already started staking their, emotional claim in Kevin Durant since, if not the Porzingis trade way earlier, whenever it was first rumored that he was interested in coming here. It just got blown way out of proportion, and just the emotions ran high. Bryan, do you have that same? Did you have any kind of emotional reaction to KD not signing here, or is it just kind of Kyle's? It's just the Knicks again.
No, I don't think I'm either of those. We talked about it in the preview podcast before. The Nets actually went a step farther than I would have been willing to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I would not have given DeAndre Jordan a 4-year, $40 million contract. The Nets and the Knicks are in the same situation. One of their best young players plays the center position, and signing someone, and especially for 4 years like DeAndre Jordan, who's going to minimize that player's impact for a roster that's going to need to be good in the margins, considering Durant's going to miss one full season. The second year, he is not going to be able to play 30 minutes a game and is going to be held out for games on a plan because he's coming back from a devastating injury. And then in year 3 of a 4-year contract, he is going to be 35 years old. So to waste significant resources like that on a center is something I would not have been willing to do. I said if the Knicks would have gotten those 3 they wouldn't win a championship with KD and Kyrie on the roster. And I feel the same way about the Nets right now. They're going to get some good basketball years out of it. There's the ceiling that could end up with them winning a championship, but there's also the downside and the risk. And if Kevin Durant is getting paid $45 million when he's 35 and he's only 75% of the player he was, that's really bad. There's just a lot of unknown in all this, and DeAndre Jordan was a step too far for me. So I'm perfectly fine with this not ending up on the Knicks roster.
It was, I mean, I kind of lost faith in the whole package deal of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant a couple of weeks ago. I just figured that, with kind of Kyrie up in the air about what he wanted to do, and then Durant seeming like surefire, still seemed to be like a surefire Knicks player up until yesterday morning. I didn't think that reunion was real, and that's why I didn't put a lot of stock into Brooklyn clearing up that space. And I mean, got to give credit because they definitely executed well to get what they wanted. They moved out the players that they needed to. They got, they moved some picks out, but they got the space that they needed. And, then the Knicks did the same thing. It's just, maybe it was that DeAndre Jordan move that ended up being the straw that really broke the camel's back for the Knicks and sent them on to Brooklyn. Maybe it was just the fact that, I don't know how much, the reporting came out last night of the Knicks not being super willing to give Durant all that money, like that they weren't going to offer him the max contract. And, that kind of seemed to come out right in the middle of everyone just eviscerating James Dolan for not being able to pull this off. And then goes ahead and, it only stoked the fire even more. And then the Knicks had this bizarre statement that they put out too. I feel like they were a little bit blindsided, probably not by Kyrie, but I feel like they were by Durant for sure.
Yeah, this is kind of why I was out on the whole year. I was very, I'll believe it when I see it. I just didn't, you just can't, there's not a sure thing with this team. Not ever. Not a single time. So KD seemed more realistic. You can make the legacy play, come to save the Knicks from themselves. Basically, if you win here, you're a legend. You can make that pitch to him. And given, how much backlash he got for going to the Warriors, it would have made some sense. A lot of fans talked themselves into it. And also, that's another thing, too. A lot of fans are pretending like, we never said we were going to get KD for sure. The media said we were going to get him. The media. Like, that's just a lot of you guys that believed it. I kind of started to believe it, too. Like, I was iffy on it, but we all kind of believed it. Let's not do this media blaming bullshit thing again. I run the Knicks Wall mentions. I saw what you guys were saying. It was pretty much a lock. If I didn't say it, if I said anything implying otherwise, you guys got mad. Everybody thought it was a lock. Let's be serious. It sucks. All right, it sucks, but that's what it was.
And it wasn't wrong at the time to think it was a high percentage chance. Every single locked-in reporter said so.
Yep.
Marcus Thompson had in his kind of wrap-up of what happened that Kevin Durant wanted to be a Knick, but Kyrie Irving didn't want to go with him, and that he decided, I'm guessing the injury thing came in and he didn't want to do it by himself. It's just things happened and the path changed, and that's okay. It's okay to admit that. But one, the Knicks front office showed confidence and basically flat out said they were going to get him through innuendo. Like, there's no reason to lie about this stuff. And I'm not mad at the media reporting what they reported either, because they were obviously told stuff. I think the Knicks organization was told stuff, and it was right for fans to be excited. But it changed. The dude suffered an awful, horrendous injury. His best friend decided he wanted to go to the Nets. Those are two major points that you couldn't have predicted happened before. Like, you could have went, Kyrie's going to stay with the Celtics. Then the Nets wouldn't have been an attractive option for KD. It just happened how it played out. And I really don't think the Knicks front office is to blame. If you want to get at them about the KP trade, sure, that's your prerogative. I don't mind the KP trade. I'm okay with it. But just this that there was always going to be multiple paths, and this is how it went because a bunch of low percentage things played out.
There's been a lot of discounting of the KP trade, and they, since last night as well, where they're saying, well, the Knicks got rid of their first homegrown star since Patrick Ewing, and it's just for a chance to clear out salary cap space, and they didn't end up walking away with anybody. And there's just a lot to pick out from there. There's the fact of the matter is, and we'll get to all these contracts a little bit down the line, but the Knicks have put themselves in a really good position to not only sit out of most of next year's free agency class when it's not going to be that strong of a class. There's not going to be many suitors out there for them, but they are positioned super well to get them right in the spot where they are in 2021, where there's going to be a bunch of talent on the market, and they still have those Dallas picks. And the biggest thing that we're ignoring here is that Porzingis said he wasn't going to re-sign with the Knicks.
Yeah, so I still call bullshit on that, though.
I don't know. I feel like that relationship got really fractured.
Everyone likes to say that he was definitely going to walk. Nobody's ever turned down that extension. Nobody coming off a rookie deal has ever turned down that extension. He's a 7'3" guy with a lot of ailments, coming off an ACL injury. I said this on the emergency pod, but there's zero chance he would have just done the qualifying offer and then bounced for $5 million when he would have turned down $160 million. I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
I think that relationship was really strained. I think that Porzingis felt likely that he could have gotten his money elsewhere, and I think he would have taken the qualifying offer. I as strongly as you feel the other way, I feel the opposite.
So how about it's most likely somewhere right in the middle? I'm with Kyle that I don't think he would have passed on the QO. But you also could force yourself to trade, make a stink, and force yourself out after getting that. And from the Knicks side, the argument to just not invest in a player with the risks that he has from an injury perspective and not wanting to give him a 5-year fully guaranteed contract is a completely understandable position to take. It's kind of like how I am with the KD and Kyrie thing. Like, I would have been fine if they signed them. I understand the reasons why you do that. I'm also fine with not signing them because of the downside that there was. Like there's a lot of gray area in all of this.
Yeah, like I don't know. To me, the KP and the other thing too is everybody saying the KP trade was all about just getting some assets back for someone who's going to walk. It wasn't necessarily about this summer, but it was, they, like you said, through innuendo, like they kept saying stuff about, oh, we're very confident of our chances this summer. We're very confident. And aside from the Dolan bit too, like initially Perry and Mills were pretty gung-ho about we have, potentially 2 max slots, and they alluded to things. It's not a guarantee. It's not a promise. They didn't explicitly say it, but you're being kind of willfully ignorant if you're ignoring the things that they were hinting at.
Yeah, so, and I mean, the icing on the cake of all that, too, was the Michael K. Dolan interview.
Right, exactly, where he basically said it.
Right.
It's just, we don't need to pretend otherwise. Like, it's fine. Like, sometimes you take losses. It's okay. It's not a big deal. We were going to get jokes no matter what. Had they signed Durant to a max deal, then everyone would have said something about his Achilles and maxing him out. And if no other stars came to like, it is what it is. Like, we were going to get jokes either way. We'll continue to get jokes until we prove we could be a winning franchise. But like, let's not pretend things didn't happen a certain way either.
Right. And the thing is too, that, and we're going to hop into this in a second, like I was just saying, but it's not like the Knicks have completely balked on that cap space that they opened up. They position themselves to still be in an adequate position to strike once the talent matches what they are anticipating in the following years. Like they just got a lot of decent length 2-3 year contracts that many of them could probably be moved. It's not like they're the only one. It's not like they're these they didn't just give huge contracts to guys who are getting overpaid on the market this year. They kept them short. They kept themselves in a combative position. I think they still have a lot of flexibility, and I think above all, that is really what they aim to I think that was their goal. If they couldn't get Kevin Durant, they couldn't get Kyrie Irving, keep as much flexibility as possible and just keep on treading along. And that's kind of the only thing that we can do right now. It's we just got to keep on moving forward with what we have here. We have a lot of really, really talented young players. We have Mitchell Robinson. We have RJ Barrett now. We have, the ability to let them grow completely unencumbered. And then we have some solid vets who are going to be able to fill in those gaps around that. I'm not saying that this is necessarily even going to be a playoff team next year, but I'm saying that, that the timeline as it stood earlier in the year still stands now. We just don't have those giant wrenches of Durant and Kyrie Irving to either facilitate or potentially impede things.
It's not normal to go from 17 wins to immediately having a championship contending roster, which is basically, look, there would have been a year time lapse between that, but that's basically the goal of what the Knicks were trying to do. That the Heat were able to pull it off, the Celtics were able to pull it off, but that's not normal. That's not how teams build. It's a gradual process of improving, adding talent, getting better. Then once you show you're good and once you show you're an actual functioning basketball team, then stars are attracted and are interested in coming to you. So what the Knicks have done now is they basically pivoted exactly how I would have. We can nitpick about, I think, one of the players, but outside of that, the three signings, Randle, Bullock, and Gibson, I think are pretty much quality signings at a reasonable price. And now what they did was, so they got one big piece in Randle, who's 24, and he could potentially be part of their core long term. But they also, even within that context, they gave themselves an out with the third year team option. So even with the younger player they think might be with them long term, they played it safe. Everyone else they got is on a 2-year contract. They're going to make the team better. Listen, the Knicks forwards last year, they were the 6th worst in points per 36 minutes and had a league worst true shooting percentage at 52.9%. They had the 3rd worst 3-point percentage at 33%. Julius Randle and Taj Gibson have both had a true shooting percentage over 600 last year. Bobby Portis was less efficient overall, but he shot 39% from 3. Randle shot 34% from 3. Bullock, who's going to play some of the 3, shot 39% from 3. The Knicks forwards last year, who played forward for them last year? Think about who played power forward for this team last year. Kevin Knox, Noah Vonleh, Mario Hezonja. Who am I missing that got some? Luke Cornett, Lance Thomas played a ton of minutes at the 4. They're a significantly better basketball team in that spot right now than they were. They have a guy you can run your offense through. So are the Knicks going to go from 19 to 50 wins, to 45 wins, and then to upper 50s the year after? No, probably not. Can they now go from 17 to 30, 35, plus have a bunch of expiring contracts and young players that you can add in trades, and then the year after hopefully go up to 40, 42, and then when all that money clears out, you have cap space, you look like your actual functioning basketball organization, and when other star players come up, it's like, okay, we saw these young players can help in a winning sense with what those guys were. Now imagine if you put RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson with the even higher level talent. So this is now you have to act like a normal NBA basketball team and keep it moving. The quick fix went away. Now you keep building. You look for trade opportunities to use with the picks. They're plus in the picks because of the Mavs, and they have all their own. So they're fine. And hope the guys they signed have to pan out and be decent basketball players. And David Fizdale can't be a bad coach. He should be able. I'm not saying they need to win 45 games next year, but he should be able to mold this roster into a 30 to 35 win team.
Yep, I mean that's about where I sit with it too. I kind of picture them as being about in that 30 to 35 range. We're going to get big into the details of all these contracts in a second, but first, I wanted to tell you all about our new sponsor, 8 Sleep. Do you guys know what the worst sound in the world is? It's your alarm clock if you haven't gotten enough sleep. No matter how much you love that song on your phone, when it wakes you up in the morning, you just want it to stop. I totally learned my lesson about that in high school, having just the loudest, most obnoxious punk songs as being my ringtones when I would wake up in the morning. And now I have these gorgeous chime bells to get me up. But imagine this scenario. The surface temperature of your bed gradually adjusts to wake you up gently and naturally without the sound of an alarm. That sounds even better. Imagine now waking up rested and alert. Not science fiction. This is the new Pod by 8 Sleep. The Pod by 8 Sleep is a high-tech bed designed specifically to help you achieve optimal sleep fitness. And there's a reason why Time magazine calls 8 one of the best inventions of the year. It combines dynamic temperature regulation and sleep tracking to enhance your rest and recovery. It learns your sleep habits and adjusts the temperature automatically. That means if you like the bed cool, your partner likes the bed warm, now you can have both at the same time in a crazy, comfortable bed and no more alarm clocks. And to celebrate Independence Day, you can get a free gravity cooling blanket plus free shipping with your pod purchase, a $300 value completely free. Offer ends Monday, July 8th. Visit 8sleep.com/bluewire. That's 8sleep.com/bluewire. EIGHT sleep.com/bluewire. Why don't we dive back into Julius Randle real quick, because he seems to be the prize acquisition for the team. Randle signed a 3-year contract, with that last year being a player or a team option rather. I think that's super important with them going into next year. It's a 3-year, $63 million contract, but going into 2021 free agency, I mean, that's going to be huge. You now have the complete option where, this guy is a core member of our core. We've really loved how he's developed with every other member of our young players, and getting them into a position where these guys are going to get closer to getting paid. It's better to keep him on the books. But if he just doesn't work out, you got your out clause right there. And you got all these other guys on 2-year contracts. Like, they could put themselves right back where they are. But I'm excited for Julius Randle to be joining the team. I really think he sits right into that 4th spot very real nicely with everyone else around him. And it's just, he also seemed to be the guy that was rumored most if the KD and Kyrie thing didn't work out. So at least there is some air of truth to that after everything that was going on. But I'm a pretty big fan of the Julius Randle signing.
Yeah, I've obviously been on this podcast for years, as you both know, trying to get Julius Randle on this team. I spoke at length about a potential Randle Porzingis pairing. I wanted that very dearly. So we finally get Julius Randle, and there's no KP, so it's a little bit bittersweet in the sense of me not being able to see that pairing for my favorite basketball team. But we have Mitchell Robinson, so it's not the end of the world.
I'm excited about that pairing, really.
Yeah, my only concern is, and Julius can shoot a little bit, but my only concern with it is, part of what I was hoping for RJ this year was really good spacing, and the Knicks are never great at that, but just the NBA spacing in general. And I think the Randle Mitchell pairing is good for those two, but I wonder how it affects the offense with RJ, because I don't want it to get clunky like it was at Duke, where he would go into the paint and there's just two guys in Zion and whoever the center was just kind of waiting there. So I do wonder about that, and how this is on Fizdale, of course, to make sure that this isn't an issue. But that was my only drawback to it. Other than that, I thought that's a pretty good 4-5. I think Mitch is going to cover up a lot of what Randle does defensively. And, on the flip side of it, having some offense in the interior is going to help, because Mitch doesn't give you much of anything besides rim rolling or, that just the alley-oops in general. So I'm okay with it. I just do kind of have my spacing concerns given what RJ likes to do, but we'll see. Overall, everybody knows I've really been high on Randle for a while. I kind of figured that was the deal he'd get. Was the team option confirmed? Because I saw Steve Popper say...
Stephen Popper changed his report.
Okay, because I fell asleep at some point without seeing what the actual finalization there was. But if it was a straight up 3-year deal, I would be a little bit more worried.
Yeah, I remember having that reaction because it didn't come out at first that it was a team option. It just came out as a straight up 3-year deal, and I felt like it was a little bit of an overpay. But that team option is awesome on the end there.
Yeah, if you get the team option, then and we said this on the last podcast too, the 2020 free agent class sucks. Like, they're not going to get Anthony Davis, right? They're not going to get Draymond Green, and then the rest of it is pretty meh.
Here's the thing: because of the contracts they signed, say Anthony Davis, something crazy in LA happens, and Anthony Davis wants to come here, the path for them to get the money to sign Anthony Davis is super easy.
Sure, but he's not coming. Is the point? He's going to stay in LA.
No, but if a trade comes, that's what I'm saying. If a trade, the contracts they sign give them this flexibility with the multiple avenues. Still, they haven't. It's not going to take a player like what happened to the Heat. Like, the Heat are getting lucky. Like, it's a much easier path for the Knicks to get to a full salary cap, a max slot than it would be if they handled this offseason in a different way.
That's why I don't care about who's getting like 2-year contracts even at this point. I like the players that we picked up, but I don't mind them getting a little bit overpaid in these 2-year deals because like they're still movable enough that you can get enough salary off your books like this in the case that somebody, even if it's not Anthony Davis, but somebody becomes available that the Knicks want to pursue. And then you know, even if that doesn't happen, even if a trade doesn't come up in the next 2 years that you really feel like you need to go for, you're still going to have the opportunity to go out and sign whoever the hell you want in 2 years' time. And I understand that this is the exact same scenario that we're walking out of now, in a not so happy place, but the Knicks need to learn from how they kind of approach this and the promises they made ahead of time and the innuendos and the wink winks and everything. I still feel confident that they're recovering from the situation correctly enough, and that with like a more well-groomed team of all these players who are going to be in the league for 3-4 years at time at that point, and just having some actual talent around them, having some actual veterans around them, trying not to just completely bottom out. Like the roster construction they've had the last couple of years has clearly been intended for. I think that they're still going to be in a position to make a lot of moves from here.
So last season, the Knicks offense was essentially ran through Enes Kanter at points, Tim Hardaway Jr. at points, Emmanuel Mudiay, a little bit of Dennis Smith Jr., but really not much because he got hurt. Now the Knicks are going to be able to look, is Julius Randle going to be a number one offensive option on a championship level team? No, that's completely ridiculous. That would be completely ridiculous to think. But he had a 28 usage last year and he had a 60 true shooting percentage. The year before he had a 25 usage and he had a 60 true shooting percentage. So what the Knicks have now is they have a guy you can put the ball in his hands, he can score efficiently, and that is going to allow the other players on the roster to play their correct roles. It will make Kevin Knox a better offensive player. The spacing with him and RJ is going to be interesting. But I do think you can stagger them a little bit. There's some combination of players that you can already see that David Fizdale should be using to balance offense and defense. And we'll get into that longer down the line. But I'm fascinated by what he can do. But so Randle is giving you a guy it's going to allow Reggie Bullock to be a spot up 3-point shooter and not ask him to do more. It's going to you're not going to have to put the ball in other people's hands as much. Knox isn't going to have as much responsibility. So just Randle being on this team is going to make those around him better.
Let's talk about Reggie Bullock for a little bit, then, since we're getting into him. 2-year, $21 million contract. I feel like I haven't seen a ton of Reggie Bullock, but his stats have been... His shooting is pretty outstanding for what I'm seeing. I mean, he shoot 39% from three, I think, last year. And we're not talking about like that year that was it 2 years ago where Lance Thomas shot 40 from three for the whole season, but didn't really get a ton off. It was like I feel like this dude's a legit shooter, something that this team's going to really need, especially like you were just talking about with Smith and with RJ not exactly having the most beautiful touch in the world, but this is again where they're filling out their front court because they have very little. They had a lot of need there, so they're going to put a lot of competent vets in there, and maybe even a player who can join the core, long term. And then you get all these shooters to supplement all your other your young wings and your guards who can't. Maybe they haven't found their shooting touch yet, but they just for one reason or another they just can't shoot right now. So you get all these other veterans around them. Also, not necessarily letting them go to a contender, which I don't know if the Knicks necessarily need to be involved with there. But it's the more guys you keep away from the Lakers, the more shooters that you keep away from the Lakers right now, I'm pretty happy about. But yeah, I think that they're supposedly going after Wayne Ellington as of when we're recording this right now. It's about 10:15 on Monday morning Eastern time. But I'm again, this just seems like the move. Get your young guys to be really running the show. Like let them make their mistakes. Let them make exciting plays. And then you have these shooters to bail them out. You have these solid defensive bigs to bail them out. Like these are good signings given the circumstance. I haven't seen a lot of Bullock, but just his numbers alone, I'm pretty excited to have him join the team.
It's fine. Like the signings are fine. We needed shooters. We were bitching about it forever. The last podcast, this is basically exactly what we proposed that they do if they needed to pivot. So
outside of Bobby Portis, the Portis thing I don't really like, to be honest with you. But I think that's
on Portis.
I think it's too much money. I think he kind of is who he is. I could be wrong. I just from when I've watched him, and I liked him at first with the Bulls, but since then it's just not. It's a non-starter for me. But
his shooting touch is really exciting.
Yeah, like he can shoot and it spaces the floor. Like I get the appeal there. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't do a ton for me at that price point. I guess
Mitch and Taj playing defense together is going to be great.
Yeah.
Like the Knicks could throw out Frank, Dotson, Taj, and Mitch together for stretches, and that's a really, really good defensive team.
Yeah, just to get these numbers on record too, we got Bobby Portis on a 2-year, $31 million deal, and then Taj Gibson on a 2-year, $20 million contract. I would have probably gone for one or the other. I feel like, is Taj more of a small ball 5 now?
They both they can both. I think you're going to split the 96 minutes at center and power forward mainly between Mitch and the 3 guys signed yesterday, maybe with a little Knox mixed in. There's going to be injuries during the season. There's going to be foul trouble. I don't like the Knicks needed big men. That's what the other part of this is. The Knicks are showing they're Dennis Smith Jr., Alonzo Trier, Kevin Knox, Damian Dotson, Frank Ntilikina. Like Reggie Bullock's going to play some. Like they're showing confidence in their young players, and they're expecting them to take a step forward at the 1, 2, and 3 positions. And they decided to invest money in the 4 and 5, where they literally had no one under contract.
It makes some sense, and this is kind of what we were talking about with. I wouldn't say following the Nets model, but at some point, like you have the young guys that you're going to have. Like the Nets made that trade to get D'Lo, right? And then he was their big young prospect. Like the Knicks have their big young prospects, for better or for worse right now. They have RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson. Last year was Knox, Mitch, Trier. Dotson's still hanging around. Frank's still hanging around. They have a lot of young guys. And at some point, you have to surround those young guys with actual competent NBA players to complement them and their skill sets and help them start winning games so that they aren't stuck in this tank mode of trying to do too much or play outside of their games and forced to be worse players than maybe they actually are. Like, you have to get them some kind of help. So I don't mind it. This is what you should be doing. And hopefully you can go out there, and this is where it's on Fizdale now to make this work. You have guys who can space the floor. You have guys who can shoot. You have guys like Randle who are versatile offensively, who can kind of play make a little bit and get out in open space and run the break for you as a big man. Like, you have to get creative with how you use this team. They should be running a lot. They should be spacing the floor a lot. So it's good. They can play more. I'm not going to say winning basketball, but they can play a better brand of basketball, more competent brand of basketball. And the next couple of years, basically, everyone's talking about the 2021 free agent class now because of Giannis, but we're getting, don't put the cart in front of the horse here. Like, you have to show now for these next 2 years that your young guys are who you think they are and that you can actually win some games, or nobody's going to come still. So go out there, like, make these young guys, mold them into what you think that they're supposed to be. But you have to start putting an attractive brand of basketball out there. Just saying, oh, come play for MSG, come play for the Garden. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. If they did care, they would sign here. They don't. They don't care about that. So don't talk to me about the Knicks branding and it's a Knicks town and the Nets are the B team. That's dead. That's dead. They got superstars. We didn't. It's dead. We have to go out there and put out an attractive brand of basketball to draw stars in. Just keep being competent for the next couple of years like Perry's been for the last 2 years. But this is the hard part of it now. It's easy to tear it down. Now, how are you going to build it back up? So I'm still pretty indifferent. Like, I don't mind the signings. I like that they pivoted this way, but now I got to start seeing some wins, even if it's not a lot. And all I'm saying by that is like 30 wins. Just get near there. Show some improvement. Take a step. Like, I just need to see that Mitch and RJ are who we think they are, and that these signings kind of complement them to some degree. So we'll see, man. I'm glad that they got shooters for RJ and Dennis, though.
Yeah,
because I'm worried about their shooting this next season. Dennis, I'm obviously high on, but
with all the guys around on the team right now, it's like all of these guys that they picked up, or at least could potentially help them to tailor their performance in one way or another. Like, at the very least, Mitchell Robinson wants to take threes. I feel like Bobby Portis might be able to help out with that in one way or another. Like, I don't know, maybe it's an overpay for helping Mitchell Robinson develop a skill that probably won't become a long-term weapon of his in the NBA. But, again, it is what it is. Bullock and potentially Ellington or whoever else comes in to help with the shooting, it's like that's going to be, that's going to help out in that regard too, in one way or another. Again, to what degree, we don't know. But, just having them there to be able to tailor a little bit of the game plan towards those players and maybe plug in some of the younger guys in their stead at a few opportunities may just be what they need for now. And that's what it comes down to.
The number one priority for them right now, and I'm pretty sure they would either have to make Dotson, they would have to let Dotson go, which I don't think they're going to do, or they would have to kind of rearrange $1 million to save in the contracts to make it fit of the guys they signed. But Goran Dragic should be the Knicks' number one focus right now.
Yeah,
because they can take that contract on for a future pick, facilitate the trade, the Jimmy Butler trade, and you that way you have a safety net for Dennis, you have a safety net for Frank. Because look, I like both players. I still think both can be good NBA players. I really do. But there's no guarantee about that. And the Knicks, I'm in the same place as Kyle. We both want to watch the Knicks win games next year. Goran's contract is only 1 year left on it, and he would be a significant offensive upgrade to either of those players right now.
Yeah,
he can shoot, he can create shots, and it would be a big step up for them. And if that's a route they can go, I think they should be very aggressive in trying to do that.
I think we're pretty much all set on the tanking, right? Like, I think that from a fan base perspective, from our own perspective, from the Knicks front office perspective and everything like that, it's like I feel like we've walked away, and we haven't even seen the guy play yet, but we've walked away with enough of a prize in RJ Barrett from this past year of tanking and the last couple of years of just not necessarily putting a team together that's going to be able to compete. I think everyone's kind of at a point now where We just want to try to improve what we have now and win as many games as possible. Because, like, it's again, like you're saying with the Brooklyn method, like, it's not going to be a 1-for-1 comparison, but like, and they, they had a lot of luck that they were able to pull together. But what they just did was they had a competent team that they built up from the ground basically without having very many picks after moving them all to bus and everything. But they were able to build a team up, and then they knew how far that team could take them, and then they executed after that. They didn't really need to tank to put that team together or anything like that. They didn't need to do they didn't need to try to game the system essentially for it. And they ended up walking away with a pretty good prize. And I think that teams are kind of looking at that and starting to evaluate it now and realizing that, they're the more fruitful way to build, I suppose, is just work with what you have, make the best decisions as you go along. And, when things are starting to break right for you, just execute as best you can. And I think the Knicks are in a good place to be able to execute from here. Do you guys want to talk about any of the other signings around the league that kind of piqued your interest? The whole D'Angelo Russell sign and trade thing has gotten pretty interesting to me.
I wonder what the Warriors are up to with that.
Yeah,
it does not feel like they're signing him to keep him there. It feels like
a Clay replacement for now to me.
It could be. I think it could be, but with how
big contract though for if you're only intend on having him around for the short term.
Someone brought it up in our Slack chat yesterday. I think it was Eli or John, but somebody brought up if the Warriors did that to recoup an asset to then flip him to Minnesota to get Culver. And I thought that this is obviously pure speculation. That hasn't been said anywhere, but the Minnesota stuff seemed pretty I wouldn't say done, but from all the credible plugged in people, that was the move was he wanted to go to Minnesota. Minnesota was super confident they had someone for Wiggins, meaning they had a trade, basically framework done. So it seemed like it was all about just moving the pieces around to get it at that point. And I thought that's what we were going to see. And then he goes to the Warriors in the sign and trade, and obviously that fit doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't know that he stays there.
I don't know if D'Angelo Russell signs on to be, an asset to be flipped. I don't think that was his intention, signing this contract. But maybe he does go into that with the understanding that we want you to be here while, so we can stay competitive while Klay Thompson's out after we lose Kevin Durant, everything like that. And then, the fit might not be great after that, and we're probably going to look to move you after that. That's something that maybe he can, get behind. But I think there's also some allure to going and playing for the Warriors, even still after they kind of took some lumps. And, he gets to go there and be part of that team that goes into that new arena for the first year. And, I mean, there's definitely appeal to going to play for them. And I think it'll be an interesting fit next to Steph Curry, if not ideal. But yeah, I mean, I could totally see that happening somewhere down the line. I don't know what I feel like Minnesota is going to be hard pressed to give up Jarrett Culver, but we'll have to see. That one doesn't make a ton of sense, like you guys are saying so far. But I'm really interested to see how that kind of plays out over next season.
Philly's starting lineup is awesome again. It's different. They've had in the past 2 years, 2 completely different groups, but also super fun. Adding Josh Richardson, that team is tall and long. They are fascinating too.
Even go back to the Saric and the Covington and their team, and then they move them. They get the Butler, Tobias Harris team in there. All the while you got Embiid and Simmons running around, and then you got Horford, you got Richardson. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be way more fun, I think, to watch play than the Simmons and then the Butler Tobias Harris pairing was.
That defense is going to be so good.
Stifling.
And between Tobias Harris is their worst defender by far. You have Embiid's an elite defender, Horford's an elite defender, Richardson's an elite defender, Simmons is an elite defender. That's going to be the best defensive team in the NBA.
Yeah, everyone was talking about the Horford thing being kind of a weird signing. I saw like a lot of that at first, like, oh, that's strange with Embiid. I thought it was kind of brilliant because
Yeah.
Embiid can get rest literally whenever he wants now. Horford can get rest whenever he wants now, and they can spell each other pretty nicely. And I think you could get really fun with the lineups. Like you can you can go big if you want and play them at the 4-5 and put Tobias at the 3. You can put Tobias at the 4 and interchange both of those, and it might work better with depending on who you're playing, because Horford kind of serves as an offensive hub as a big man, whereas Embiid's more of just a dominant offensive force looking to score. So I think you can really throw a lot of different looks at teams if you're Philly, and it's kind of smart.
And
like they still like retained their talent level that they had last year despite moving Jimmy. So like the window is still open. It's just a slightly different look.
And Horford's passing ability, and Brett Brown I think the Sixers ran the least amount of pick and rolls in the league. So his, as you said, using him as a hub that he can pass will be really good. They can do some interesting things that I would imagine him and Horford and Simmons are going to play a lot together because Philly does that thing where they take Embiid out early and then bring him back with the second unit. So you're going to get Horford and Simmons running those non-Embiid minutes. And that I like how those two fit together. That will open up some spacing for if you say you put Harris at the 4 and Horford at the 5. That's going to open up a lot of space for Simmons to do some dribble drive stuff.
I just saw that Jamal Murray contract too.
That seems like it could go either way. It feels like.
Yeah, that one surprised me a little bit. I really like Jamal Murray a lot, and that to me was even a little bit much. But I also kind of don't blame them because they had a very good team this past year. They very easily could have went to the Western Conference Finals. That was a really good series they had with the Blazers. But I guess they're just, locked into the score. And I don't know if I blame them, but I think that's a lot of money for Jamal Murray.
Yeah. Ooh, I am glad. I'm just kind of scrolling through timelines now. I am glad that Pat Beverly got paid with the Clippers.
Oh, well, first of all, yes. But the one thing I did want to say on this podcast today pertaining to the Knicks that we haven't covered is thank God.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Terry Rozier.
Oh, yeah.
signed in Charlotte for $60 million. I would have been set off yesterday had they signed Randle and then signed Rozier for $60 million. Like, I don't know what the Knicks were going to offer. I assume maybe if it wasn't 3 years, it would have been 2 years, but similar money. I would have lost my shit if they signed Rozier for any kind of money like that.
Charlotte's like the only ownership group that can out-Knicks the Knicks.
So I'm thrilled that I don't even have Brian. Obviously, you'll go now, but I'm thrilled we don't even have to waste a ton of time talking about Rozier and just dodge that bullet. There was nothing that would have made me more upset yesterday than seeing Terry Rozier with the Knicks.
I would have defended the Rozier signing if it was basically the Taj Gibson contract, something like that. There's no, you wouldn't have heard a single positive thing. Like, there's levels to it. You would have heard not a single positive thing about the Knicks signing Terry Rozier on a 2 years, $40 million contract. I would have destroyed them. So there's a difference. So if they would have signed him to a reasonable contract that wasn't a lot of money and it was 2 years, there's some points in his game that I would have pointed out are positives that could maybe see him turn into a better player than he was. But at the price point he went to, I would have crushed the Knicks if they would have done that.
Yeah, I would have crushed them for signing Rozier, period. I just think who your offensive focuses are as guards.
You don't though. That's the Rosie picture. Dennis might not be that. We all hope he is.
Sure, but at the same time, you have multiple guys with upside who you can bank on, like at least giving the ball to and trying something out, and it's okay. Versus what they did is a little bit better because they just paid for the position that they had none of. Aside from Mitch, they had no real bigs, no fours. they needed forwards. So like they went and shored that. Like I'm glad if they were going to spend the money trying to build a somewhat competitive basketball team, they did it that way versus adding yet another ball handler, a young ball handler to the mix, and then we're going to juggle three guys kind of aimlessly as who's the offensive initiator, and it kind of could have mucked things up. Like for me personally, I prefer it this way. Not saying it's a lock as high as I am on those two. Not saying it's a lock that those two are going to pan out, but I would much rather bet on one of those two,
So
really turning into
So you
something
wouldn't
good.
take Goran Dragic on this team?
I would take Goran, but that's different because he's a proven entity at this point. Like he's an efficient, good like an above average offensive player. Like that's different. Rozier is not that, and you have to, like you're saying about, oh well, Dennis and RJ aren't sure. Like that's fine, but neither is Rozier. Like Rozier has an awful lot to prove
yeah,
too,
absolutely.
and he's older and then expensive. So for me, the value is in you have RJ and Dennis on rookie deals, and I'm not sure he's even better than Dennis Smith Jr. Rozier. So for me, at that point, it's like, what are we doing paying a guy who's probably not even better than Dennis to come in and overlap and have yet another offensive initiator? It just made little sense to me to begin with. So that's why I wanted nothing to do with it. It was like we're adding yet another question mark, except this one has a bigger price tag. And I just wanted no part. I could not have wanted Rozier less than I wanted him. Like to me, him signing in Charlotte for $60 million yesterday was the biggest win of the Knicks, like the next day. Like I was thrilled, like so relieved. I was crushed by the Durant thing for a second, and then I see Charlotte picks him up for $60 million, and I was just relieved. I was like, okay, so the Knicksiest move is now out of the picture. Like I immediately felt better. I was like, okay, so now they're going to get Randle, and then we'll see what happens from there. So that's why I don't really hate it. But Rozier is just thank God. Thank God. It would have been 50 minutes of me being angry this morning if we got Rozier.
Well, let's wrap it up at that then. I don't think we can deal with any of Kyle's anger from here, and if the Knicks pull up any more Knicks type moves, I think we better save it for later on in the week. Yeah, so I guess I mean, this is where we are. It feels really weird recording this episode, just like this is the moment that's been promised to us from earlier on in the season, and now here we are. I think we all kind of knew all along it wasn't going to go down the way we planned, and then not ending up with the number one pick in Zion, and we thought that would be the thing that would change, but we'd still get Kyrie, we'd still get KD, and things are just different now. But again, I'm still feeling pretty good. I'm still feeling confident. I'm not as defeated as I thought it would be. I know a lot of us have differing thoughts about it. So if you guys really want to get into this with us, just hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on YouTube, comment, let out your frustrations. That's what we're here for. So make sure you're following us on Twitter, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Knickswall. Follow all of us individually at Corbo Anthony, at Kyle Maggio, at Bryan Gibberman. Head to theknickswall.com, subscribe to us on all those places that you can subscribe, leave us some reviews, stuff like that. And then we will be back with you all later on in the week.
Don't sign Emmanuel Mudiay.
Please don't sign Emmanuel Mudiay.
Feet underneath you.